Hi, my name is Anjana. Welcome to this episode of Law Pod. I'm one of the social media assistants here at Queen's University Belfast Law School. I'm joined by Tara, Shay and Eleanor, all international students here at Queen's, and we're all going to be talking about our experiences of being a law student here. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves to our listeners?
Hi guys, my name's Tara. I'm a final year law student. I'm an international student from Malaysia, and I'm one of Queen's social media assistants.
Hello everyone, my name's Yueqi and you can call me Eleanor. I'm in second year of my LLB and I'm from Malaysia.
Hi everyone, my name is Shay. I am a first year senior status student from Canada studying at Queen's.
The first question we'd like to posit is a relatively common one actually. Why did you choose Queen's?
I chose Queen's because I really liked the look of the modules that they had, particularly in the second year. They have some really interesting optional modules. And then I also liked the fact that Belfast is a city that's not too big, it's close to the ocean, but probably the school mainly.
I chose Queen's just because, one of the top reasons, it's obviously a Russell Group uni. When I was applying through UCAS, it's like top 10 law schools. And then also, as Shay was saying, Belfast is an amazing city in general.
I feel like the modules here they're not only interesting, but they're also very present. Like, for example, Tara was telling me the other day that the EU law module that she was doing last year, this year when I'm doing it in year 2, it changed into EU law in a changing world.
I can actually attest to that because last year, the land law module, around October or so, the land law professor actually released a judgment that one of the higher courts on a case called Guest and Gast, and it was released on that date, and it went straight into the syllabus. So it's a really good example of how Queen's keeps up to date with their curriculum.
So the next question that we'll look at is, how was your experience when moving to Belfast and moving to Queen's in general?
I found it pretty easy. The visa process was really smooth. I didn't move into student residence, so that was probably the trickiest thing, was finding a flat, but that all was able to happen the week before school. And then it's mostly just opening a bank account and all the things that maybe you don't think about too much that are a little bit tricky sometimes. But it hasn't been too bad.
Yeah, it was really easy for me as well, especially since I live in student accommodation this year. I'm in Elms BT2 and it's amazing. The facilities are great. The residential life team and the security, they're all so friendly and so lovely and so welcoming. And I felt like I could just instantly settle in, and the process of purchasing things for my day-to-day life was also really easy because Belfast is such an accessible city that you can basically walk everywhere, you can take the bus anywhere that you need. And the school also had a lot of events during Fresher Week to help us move in and settle in, which was really helpful.
I can say for myself that I found the moving experience quite smooth. I'm at Elms BT1 and I absolutely love the facilities there. I've got to say the gym is probably my favourite part. I don't have to walk anywhere to go to the gym, so straight downstairs, just take the lift. It's very close to everywhere. I'm right in town. So it's never too far to go anywhere, which is great.
We had a Belfast representative for Malaysia specifically. Her name's Miss Chu, and she's amazing. So that really helped me. And I think even after I moved here, everything about opening up a bank account or what I have to do within the first few weeks, there were seniors that I could refer to. For example, Tara, who yes, I asked a lot of questions to. So I think that helped me a lot.
So that brings me on to my next question. So what type of support did everyone receive in uni and how has it helped you?
I found that there is so much support at Queen's. And so that was a really big pro for me, especially coming from Canada and not knowing anyone here. So I knew that if things went wrong or if I had questions that I had so many people to reach out to. And I mean, within the first week with inductions, you have so many different areas and so many different people to reach out to for support. Like the student skills students are always busy setting up workshops, which is amazing. And I found that there's been so much support at Queen's.
I do love the student skill assistants. Their workshops are amazing. I find that also the drop-in hours for lecturers are really helpful as well.
Yeah.
Because I know with my constitutional, we did get general feedback on it. But I know that I'm going to book an appointment with our lecturer and say, can I have more personalised feedback to know what I did wrong, what I could do to improve.
Mm-hmm.
They do have mental supports for you there as well, because, you know, being alone in Belfast, for some of us, it's our first time being independent here. They do have a well-being service where you could go to, and whatever you say there is private and confidential. And they also have SU Advice, which you could go to if you need any advice regarding finance, accommodation, housing, and that's really good as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like they have support for so many different areas, like mental health, if you have questions about your academic studies, if you need help finding housing.
One thing about Queen's is that I've never felt like I couldn't approach a lecturer or a tutor or just any person of staff, any person that I needed to ask for advice. Right. There's a whole career advice team, isn't there?
That's how I got the job here, because I've never done like proper CV before. I've never had a job before. And so to actually get my CV checked and seen like, okay, yeah, this layout is good, but it could be improved here in this way to make it much more clearer. It was so helpful to see that process.
Yeah, I've heard that there's a peer mentoring system as well. I actually personally haven't gotten around to trying that system yet, but yeah, it sounds very helpful.
My peer mentor, she helped me to figure out the library system because I was so confused in my first few weeks. I was like, how do I find this book? How do I borrow a book and return it? And she went through the entire thing with me, which I think is so helpful.
And speaking of the peer mentoring, I am a member of the Women in Law Society here at Queen's, and they had a peer mentoring scheme set up, which was so helpful. So I signed up for that and I got matched with a solicitor in Belfast. And it's so lovely to speak to someone who is a working professional and who has gone through school, has gone through getting their law undergrad at Queen's and is now practicing. It's just so nice. Like you have so many areas of support to reach out to, and that's been a really lovely one. And just the women in law in general is such a great area of support too.
All right, our next question would be what to expect as either a first-year student or someone who is in their first year in Belfast.
I find that here in Belfast, the city is very much calm and like slow-paced compared to back home in Nottingham. There's so much to explore here as well. I still haven't managed to go out as much. I know I was talking to Shay and Eleanor about how much I want to see like the Titanic Museum and explore new places for food, drinks, and activities. Everyone's really friendly here, which is quite nice.
Belfast is exactly what you would expect, just looking at pictures or looking at, advertisements or the videos on YouTube that Queen's posts. It's exactly what you would expect. It's such a charming little city that's so accessible and so friendly, I think, so welcoming. And I think no one should really worry about their first year in Belfast because there really is nothing much to worry about.
I would say to anyone coming to Belfast or starting as a first-year student, do it. Like you have so much to look forward to. You're going to meet wonderful people. There's so much support. The city is amazing. It's not too big where you get overwhelmed. It's like just the right size.
Yeah.
I'm from Vancouver Island, so I love being by the ocean, and I love that there's parks you can go for walks in and lots of cute little coffee shops. And I would say too, to any senior status prospective students, when you come, you have like a little cohort. That's kind of like my own personal experience as a senior status student, is that it's been so nice to have like a group of people that you meet on day one that are going through the exact same situation as you. And so that's been so lovely too.
I would say if you're from Asia, Malaysia, like me, expect cold weather. You're probably not going to get used to it at first, but once you go through winter, your cold tolerance is going to be through the roof. You will get used to it.
I find that the jump was a bit hard at first. Like I didn't really know how to make my own notes properly because back in A-levels we were given booklets with all the information that we needed. We just needed to understand it, make a few bullet points here and there. Whereas here it's like you've got to take responsibility and take your own notes, and you've got to find your own work style, I suppose, your own note-taking style. But that is something you learn. By the end of the first semester, you're all good at that point.
Here in uni, you have a whole month to finish your coursework, which sounds like a lot, but when you're actually in that position and you have 3 courseworks like lined up, it gets quite hectic. It's challenging sometimes. It's very independent over here. It's very independent learning, but you'll get used to it in a while.
So what is everyone's favourite modules and how are you finding it right now?
For me, I found criminal law really interesting because as a law student at this stage, most of what we are doing is mostly on civil law. And then you have this subject on criminal law, which is so different. And it's so interesting because the criminal law is what maintains order in this country.
I find family law really interesting, especially in tutorials. The discussions on what constitutes a certain term, like what is a parent, what is a child, the discussions on societal norms and gender equality and domestic abuse and maybe like adoption. I think it's just so thought-provoking, and I really love these subjects which give an open space for discussion, and I think that's a really beautiful aspect in law, which I really enjoy.
I've really enjoyed the criminal law module, and we haven't really gotten into anything to human rights yet, but I'm really looking forward to the second year and like picking more specialized modules. I've tried to keep an open mind coming to law school and just diving really deep into all the different modules, seeing what I like, and I've been surprised by what I've liked, really.
Of course, life at Queen's isn't 100% about studying alone, so we'd like to ask about your extracurriculars. Is there any clubs and societies in Queen's that you like, and why?
I've joined the ADR Society, which is the Alternative Dispute Resolution Society, and then also the Women in Law. The Alternative Dispute Resolution Society I have enjoyed so much. It's a bit different than mooting in the sense that you're trying to come to a resolution, and so it's not a debate. It's fun to compete, so you have internal competitions, which I took part in, and then if you move past that, then you have opportunities to go to Germany or go to France and compete. There's a lot of teamwork involved. It's like a mental puzzle, but I really have enjoyed that. And then in addition to clubs and societies, I decided to take advantage of some of the professors here at Queen's. So many of them I find are doing research on the side, like they're so involved beyond just doing lectures. And so I wanted to take advantage of having access to that kind of expertise. And so I had some research that I wanted to do on the side, which I've been starting to pursue a little bit this semester. And if anything else, it's just a great way to practice doing research and writing and developing skills that will benefit you throughout a law school. So I find there's so much that Queen's has to offer, really beyond even just like the clubs and societies.
So I know for myself that I prefer both academic and non-academic societies. So for example, I myself have joined the Law Society and also the South Asian Student Society, as I am South Indian. I really enjoy this just because they host loads of different events and I'm able to meet new people from different parts of the world and really get to have new experiences.
I've basically joined all of the law academic clubs, so like the Law Society, the ADR, which I find is really nice for people who are studying law but don't like conflict. Then besides academic clubs, I think I'm also in the Malaysian Society of Northern Ireland. There are a lot of events. I remember for Halloween, there's this event called the Halloween Pasar Malam. Pasar Malam in Malay basically means like a sort of
Night market?
Yeah, night market basically. Yeah, and there were a lot of traditional Malaysian foods that really made me feel like home, and it really just built such a strong community for someone who, you know, is living so many miles away from home and just feels it does get lonely sometimes, we have to admit that. So having that sort of community available to you in Belfast is it's really nice.
That is definitely something like with the South Asian Society. I think it was a few weeks ago now. They held a Diwali event and everyone was wearing cultural outfits. There were dance performances. The food was amazing. I just have to say the dance performances literally blew my mind. It was just the entire vibe that everyone was just on the same wavelength.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention there's also a senior status society.
Oh,
And so, like you said, like it's so nice when you, even just that bond that you have with somebody because you come from the same area, the same country, you have that one thing in common. It really does bond you and you kind of create like a little family away from home.
Right, and as much as it is about creating communities, it's also about having fun. I joined K-pop dancing every Wednesday night. It's organized by the K-pop Society and it's in the PUC. What I really like about the K-pop dancing is that I would say it's beginner friendly because I don't have a K-pop dancing background. The instructors were students themselves because these are all student-led clubs, but they deliver the lessons so well. They make sure that everybody knows each and every step of the dance. And if the dance is very fast, then they slowly ramp it up. So it makes sure that everybody is able to keep up. And I really like that inclusive environment.
Okay, so another question here. So if you could please highlight one of your top memories here at Queen's so far.
Okay, I don't have one single moment, but I will say the highlight for me so far studying at Queen's has been the group of girls that I've met. And honestly, when I FaceTime my mom at night, like every night, it's our little routine, I just tell her like how lucky I feel, because that was the one thing moving away somewhere was the thing that I would love the most is if I met a lovely group of girls. And I've met that outside of the senior status group, like the loveliest girls, like all of you. And within the senior status group, it's just so nice to have such a great support system of like friends that you've grown so close with so quickly. So that's really been my highlight.
Right, yeah, I've had a lot of moments that are highlights, but I think the most memorable moment for me was the first day that I landed in Belfast, and then I walked to campus with my friends that I flew over with. And then the moment I saw the building, it was so much bigger than I expected it to be. And then that was like the moment when I was like, oh, it's happening. I'm like, this is my
real.
university experience. Yeah, it was a big moment for me. But I think another highlight, not in Belfast itself, but as a Queen student as a whole, is there's the Vice Chancellor's Attainment Scholarship. So I actually got that scholarship, which is a 50% off of my total school fees, which I'm very grateful for getting, because there's only 4 slots for the entire world of international students. So I think that was a moment where I was like really grateful for the school and for the support that it has given me and the opportunities that it has given me. And I think that made me feel like a part of Queen's and a part of the student community that I am really grateful to be part of.
Actually, on that point of the scholarship,
Mm-hmm.
as a GB student, you do get the GB scholarship, which is something that I did not expect and I didn't know about until I came here, which is like £2,500 off your accommodation that Queen's will pay for. And I know there's several other scholarship opportunities out there that you just need to keep your eyes peeled for.
I could say a lot about the scholarships as well because I'm a student ambassador, and that this is one of the top 10 questions I get asked, and Queen's even has scholarships specifically for students from the transfer program that Eleanor and I are in. See, we come from Brickfields Asia College, and there's quite a lot of students that come over from that college to Queen's every year, and they even have a scholarship for that. If you are coming into Queen's for your second year, the student with the highest average will get free air tickets worth about £2,500 for travel back to Malaysia within the year. I managed to get that, and my trip back to the summer was free, so that was really amazing as well.
So now for the last question of the podcast. What are some top tips that you would give to prospective law students?
I would say my first tip is get involved with everything that you can. There's so many opportunities, and so I would say just take advantage of those. I would say my second would be show up at the lectures, be present for the tutorials. If you really are enjoying your studies, you will do so well in it, because it's not always fun, but if you have the hunger to learn, then you'll enjoy it and you'll do better. So yeah, my top tips would be present, take advantage of all of the opportunities, and then have fun, explore the city, make friends, enjoy your time here.
I feel like academic-wise, try not to skip out on lectures and tutorials unless you really, really need to. But I find that, like Shay, you were saying, try romanticize your time at uni, because I find that it makes it so much more enjoyable. Like, I know before my lectures, I usually meet up with friends right before, have a little chat, we go in together. But it's just having that little routine or having things to do, just not focusing on just the uni perspective. And then also the non-academic wise is talk to everyone. Mm-hmm. You do not want to have a lonely uni experience. I find that I'm a very sociable person, and I know that it's like easier said than done, but really talking to everyone, it's really going to help you feel less lonely.
Speaking of academics, I'm sure this is not the first time you've heard of it, and this will not be the last time you've heard, but my personal top tip is no last minute work. See, the thing about law is that it's a very bulky subject with a lot of information. There's a lot of journals to pour through, a lot of cases to read, a lot of judgments to take note of. So you cannot leave it down to the last minute. Consistency is key in this course. Because if you get an assignment and you expect to write 2,000 words at one night and get a first class honors out of that, that is not going to happen. Coursework is the result of months of hard work, consistent hard work in which every day you build upon your repertoire of knowledge slowly. And obviously, the longer you spend on the research, the better your material is going to be. And so, doing things as early as possible, I would argue directly impacts how well you do in your coursework. And even in exams, you don't have the time to manually start understanding things only when you see the question paper. You have to get all that work done. You have to understand everything before the exam begins.
Attend every lecture and every tutorial, speak up while you can, and join most of the discussions. That's where you're really going to learn. Even if you don't want to practice as a lawyer in the future, I think that's what's going to set you apart from just being a law graduate and actually successfully getting your law degree.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of LawPod. Thank you so much, Anjana, Eleanor, and Shay, for sharing your opinions and perspectives on your experiences. It was lovely hearing about your thoughts on Belfast and student life, and you shared a lot of insightful information that I'm sure our listeners would have loved to know. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you learned a thing or two.